Shortly after the pandemic, hundreds of thousands of Americans discovered Florida's worst-kept secret. You could escape California's taxes, New York's regulations, and blue state dysfunction while keeping significantly more of what you earned. The math seemed simple. Swap a 53% top rate in California for 0 in Florida. Trade cramped expensive apartments for actual houses with yards, and live somewhere the government didn't treat COVID restrictions like a religion. Furthermore, remote work made the logistics easy, and suddenly everyone from tech workers to small business owners was calculating whether Florida's humidity was worth the savings. However, the secret's been fully out for a while, and thus the affordable refuge that attracted middle-class political refugees has transformed into a billionaire arms race where normal economics no longer apply. 39 corporations moved headquarters to Florida in just 2 years, but they brought C-suites rather than middle management. And Wall Street didn't just send remote workers, it relocated entire trading operations and paid Manhattan salaries that made local housing costs irrelevant. Therefore, in today's episode, we're revealing how the state that promised escape from blue state dysfunction created its own crisis, where the billionaires who arrived after middle-class tax refugees have now priced those same refugees out of the paradise they discovered first. 20 years ago, Florida meant retirement communities, theme parks, and spring break. 6 billionaires called the state home in 2001, content to winter among the palm trees while conducting serious business elsewhere. Today, 119 billionaires claim Florida residency, and they've brought Wall Street with them. The transformation began slowly, accelerated during the financial crisis, then exploded during the pandemic into something unprecedented in American history. Jeff Bezos crystallized this shift when he announced his Miami relocation in 2023. His move wasn't about weather or proximity to his parents, though he claimed both. By establishing Florida residency before liquidating $13.6 billion in Amazon stock, he saved $954 million in Washington state capital gains taxes. One change of address, nearly $1 billion saved. Washington's Revenue Department watched helplessly as their biggest taxpayer headed south. He purchased 2 adjacent Indian Creek Island mansions for $147 million, joining neighbors, including Ivanka Trump and Carl Icahn. Ken Griffin had already shown the way, moving his Citadel empire from Chicago to Miami and bringing hundreds of high-paying jobs with him. Griffin assembled a real estate empire spanning 25 acres of Palm Beach waterfront. Starting in 2012 with $129,600,000 in purchases, he methodically expanded his holdings. His current project, a $1 billion single-story palace, will stretch longer than a football field when complete. His $10 million annual property tax bill alone exceeds most municipalities' entire budgets. This wasn't isolated wealth seeking sunshine. 39 corporations moved headquarters to Florida in 2022 and 2023, the highest net gain of any state. The financial services sector followed, establishing what locals now call Wall Street South. 120,000 financial services jobs now average $123,000 annually in a state once known for minimum wage tourism work. The numbers tell the transformation story. Florida attracts $4 million and 48 cents per hour in wealth migration. Palm Beach County alone houses 58 billionaires worth a combined $494 billion, more than the GDP of entire nations. Between 2018 and 2022, Miami-Dade attracted 16,000 New York refugees, bringing $6.1 billion in combined income. Understanding this happened requires following the money, which leads directly to the tax code. Florida charges 0 state income tax, 0 inheritance tax, and relatively modest property taxes. For someone like Thomas Peterfy, worth $34 billion, or Nelson Peltz at $1.9 billion, These zeros translate to hundreds of millions in annual savings. This great migration fundamentally altered Florida's character, transforming it from America's retirement home into its wealth haven. The true cost of this transformation would only become clear when examining what happened to everyone else trying to live in the billionaires' new playground. The billionaire migration fundamentally broke Florida's housing market. Understanding how requires a simple lesson in what happens when unlimited money meets limited beachfront. Consider what occurred in 2019 versus today. 5 years ago, paying $3,000 per square foot for a house would have prompted involuntary commitment proceedings. By 2025, Miami-Dade recorded 28 such sales in just 7 months, a 115% increase from the previous year. These weren't anomalies, but the new normal for properties where price divorced entirely from local economic fundamentals. The ultra-luxury market generated $2.7 billion through 152 transactions, each averaging $18 million. That's one market segment in one county producing more economic activity than entire Midwestern housing markets. Cash became king, then emperor, then absolute dictator. 43% of all Miami purchases now involve cash, rising to 53% above $1 million. Traditional buyers, depending on mortgages, found themselves at auctions where other bidders brought suitcases instead of pre-approval letters. When Ken Griffin dropped $70 million on a teardown, literally buying oceanfront mansions just to demolish them, normal pricing mechanisms ceased to function. His purchasing spree sent shockwaves through every neighborhood within miles. The ripple effect spread outward like a financial tsunami. Palm Beach properties appreciated 89% since 2019. The statewide median hit $411,600, up 60% from 2020. Ultra-luxury properties over $20 million jumped 500%. These aren't markets obeying traditional supply and demand. They're wealth storage facilities that happen to have swimming pools. Every billionaire purchase lifted prices for blocks around, creating value out of proximity alone. Institutional investors smelled opportunity in the chaos. Jacksonville now boasts the second highest concentration of institutional ownership nationally, with 21% of single-family rentals controlled by investment firms. Your landlord might be an algorithm in Manhattan, optimizing returns while ignoring broken appliances. The systematic conversion accelerated. Buy modest rentals, renovate into luxury units, price out existing tenants, repeat. Rental units under $1,000 monthly evaporated, down 60% in a decade. Units over $2,000 monthly exploded, up 500%. The math was brutal. Why rent to teachers for $1,000 when financial analysts would pay $3,000? Property taxes surged 47% from 2019 to 2024. The Save Our Homes cap created its own absurdist theater. 2 identical townhouses, same complex. One pays $4,092 annually, the other $14,693. The only difference? Purchase date. Florida now offers only 24 affordable units per 100 extremely low-income renters. 883,000 households spend over 40% of income on housing. The state built a housing market perfectly optimized for billionaires and perfectly hostile to everyone else. But the human cost of this transformation would become devastatingly clear when examining who could no longer afford paradise. Every functioning society requires a basic equation. The people who teach children, heal the sick, and protect property must afford living where they work. Florida broke this equation, and the consequences ripple through every classroom, hospital, and fire station. Start with teachers, because nothing illustrates systemic failure quite like being unable to staff schools. Florida faces 3,197 teacher vacancies halfway through the school year. Not positions waiting for better candidates, empty classrooms where education simply doesn't happen. 94,899 students experience homelessness or housing instability, up 9%. Teachers earning $50,000 annually face median rents consuming half their take-home pay. One Broward County teacher, paying $1,800 monthly, described her survival strategy. Teach all day, drive Uber all evening, grade papers at midnight, repeat. She expects to leave Florida within a year, joining thousands who discovered that dedication doesn't pay rent. 74% of education workers spend over 30% of income on housing. Nearly one-third exceed 50%. The irony cuts deep. The same billionaires whose children need education priced out the educators. Private schools respond by importing teachers from abroad, offering housing stipends that public schools cannot match. The wealthy solve their problems while public education collapses. Lee County adds 1,000 students annually, requiring 8 new schools, while hemorrhaging the teachers needed to staff them. Healthcare tells a similar story. Hospitals across South Florida report crisis-level recruitment as nurses and technicians flee to states where salaries buy more than subsistence. Miami's gleaming medical centers, built to serve an aging, wealthy population, increasingly cannot staff their floors. When your cardiac surgeon lives in Georgia and commutes weekly, the healthcare system has crossed into absurdity. Public safety faces identical mathematics. Police officers and firefighters increasingly commute 2 hours each way from affordable counties. Response times stretch as first responders sit in traffic they're supposed to navigate during emergencies. The wealthy haven't realized that private security can't replace functioning police departments, and no money speeds up fire trucks stuck on I-95. The numbers paint displacement clearly. Between 2018 and 2022, Florida gained 16,000 high-earning New Yorkers, bringing $6.1 billion, while losing uncounted thousands of essential workers. The state swapped its middle class for millionaires, forgetting that millionaires need services. Construction workers, all 587,000 of them, build homes they'll never afford. The $89 billion in construction projects creates an economy where laborers erect luxury towers by day and drive to distant trailer parks by night. Information sector workers averaging $123,000 annually cluster in neighborhoods where baristas can't afford studio apartments. Florida achieved something remarkable. It gentrified an entire state. The state gained $39.2 billion in wealth migration while creating a workforce crisis threatening basic functioning. The true price of this transformation would emerge in systems designed to protect the very wealth Florida worked so hard to attract. Even billionaires need functioning infrastructure and insurance markets, which makes Florida's systematic collapse of both particularly ironic. The state that attracted wealth by promising low taxes discovered that low taxes eventually mean crumbling systems. Start with insurance, the invisible foundation of property ownership. Homeowners' insurance premiums rose 42% between 2020 and 2024, reaching $6,000 annually, double the national average. For a median Florida home, that's $6,000 before paying principal, interest, or taxes. The wealthy shrug, the middle class drowns. Then came Surfside. On June 24th, 2021, Champlain Towers South collapsed, killing 98 people and fundamentally altering Florida's condo market. The building's failure exposed decades of deferred maintenance across Florida's aging towers. Senate Bill 4D mandated structural inspections for buildings 30 years and older, plus reserve requirements that sent condo boards into shock. Special assessments began landing, $400,000 per unit for major repairs. Retirees who bought modest condos decades earlier suddenly faced bills exceeding their original purchase prices. Cash-rich investors saw opportunity where others saw catastrophe. Buildings requiring massive assessments became acquisition targets for buyers who could absorb costs, renovate, and flip to wealthy newcomers. The safety legislation meant to protect residents instead accelerated their displacement. Infrastructure tells a parallel story of underinvestment. Florida added 1,800,000 residents from 2020 to 2024. But infrastructure investment lagged decades behind. The Cape Coral Bridge faces $360 million in costs and endless delays. 37% of visitors cite poor road conditions, matching tourism's contribution to sales tax revenue. The mathematics reveal the problem. Billionaires require premium infrastructure but concentrate in enclaves that privatize services. Palm Beach expanded private jet facilities repeatedly, while regional public transit remains non-existent. Mega mansions consuming 20 times normal electricity force grid upgrades that all ratepayers fund. Water systems designed for normal usage strain under estates with multiple pools and golf course landscaping. The wealthy install private generators and dedicated internet, while public systems serving everyone else deteriorate. UBS classified Miami as the world's most at-risk housing bubble, though their analysis missed crucial details. 43% cash purchases provide artificial stability masking deeper dysfunction. Traditional bubbles pop when financing dries up. Florida's bubble sustains itself through global wealth, treating oceanfront property as currency rather than shelter. The state created what economists call a brittle equilibrium, stable until it shatters. Insurance companies flee, infrastructure crumbles, essential workers vanish. But property values rise because global billionaires need somewhere to park wealth. Florida transformed from retirement haven to wealth fortress, optimizing everything for the ultra-rich while forgetting that even billionaires need functioning cities. The state offers paradise for those measuring wealth in hundreds of millions, purgatory for everyone else, and an economic model consuming its own foundation while celebrating record growth. Welcome to Florida, where weather remains beautiful, prices astronomical, and the future increasingly uncertain for anyone without 9 figures in the bank. And now we'd like to see you in the comments. Are you a native Floridian? And what is your opinion on the current economic moment in your state? We look forward to hearing from you, and thanks for joining us for another episode.